conversation, we're going to be exploring those times in our careers when we stop doing something work-wise that's been very familiar to us for a long time and take a leap into the unknown. What's the best way to approach a major career transition? How do we know when we're ready for one? Who or what do we lean on to guide us through the uncertainty? And how can we be adventurous when we also have responsibilities to fulfill? Exploring all of this with me is my guest this week, Anna Campagna. After 21 years at Heineken, where she was the first woman to serve as Senior Global Sales Director in the company's 150-year history, overseeing 32,000 sales personnel, Anna is embarking on a new career direction herself. She's no stranger to change and new environments, having lived and worked in Italy, Austria, the Netherlands, Sub-Saharan Africa, Mexico, and Singapore. She previously worked in various commercial positions with Yves Rocher and Red Bull, and was recognized as one of Forbes Mexico's top 100 influential women in 2016. Welcome to the business of being brilliant, Anna.
Thanks for having me, Ellen. Very nice to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you could join us and really looking forward to talking to you about your exciting transition and thinking more broadly for anyone listening who might be contemplating a transition or curious to know how to approach one. Hopefully, we'll have some useful reflections between us to share with them. But before we dive into that, I remember reading in your bio that you speak 5 languages and are currently learning a sixth, which is Korean, which is hugely impressive. I'm a linguist too, but I only claim to speak 3 quite badly. But I'm wondering how you're finding the Korean.
Well, I think language is really a way to open doors and windows on different cultures, and I'm very curious and passionate learner. So at some point in life, I decided that I wanted to, expand the boundaries of my ability to learn a new language, and so I wanted to test myself with a new alphabet, something completely unfamiliar to me. Being an Italian, it's relatively easy to speak French and Spanish because we really have the same matrix. English is something that we need to have in our DNA nowadays if we want to work in the world. And German was accidentally the best teacher I had in high school. So a lot of discipline and a lot of effort there. But then I said, okay, what if I really go beyond the known again, explore the unknown? And I chose Korean because I'm very fascinated by Korean culture. There is a big, phenomenal cultural wave that's called Hallyu, which means indeed Korean wave. And I really started to explore in a very accidental way once again, because one of my daughters became a big fan of K-pop music. And one day in the car, she was singing Korean with another friend of hers. And I said, what language is this? So that's how it got started. And then, a friend suggested a K-drama. Netflix is full of that now. And then I accidentally got a book called The Korean Book of Happiness, which taught me a lot about Korean writers. So I started to explore that. And I realized when I started to get into real Korean conversations that the way Korean is translated is often very inaccurate. So I said, okay, I want to understand it on my own. And that's how it got started. I found a beautiful teacher living in Jeju Island online. And now it's a daily practice. And it really brings me out of my comfort zone, which is a bit, the story of my life. I always say that my comfort zone is outside of my comfort zone. And here I am.
Oh, well, that's fantastic to hear. And I'm loving hearing how you got into it because it's resonating a lot for me. My 12-year-old daughter has discovered K-pop and loves it. And therefore, as a
Yes.
family, we are all embracing K-pop every day on the
Yes.
school runs. We're bopping away in the car to
Yes.
K-pop, but also K-dramas. And she's now wanting to learn Korean as well. So
Yeah.
it's
More and more
amazing.
people. You'll be surprised how many people are studying Korean as we speak.
Yeah, well, I'm really interested, and I think we may be starting to plan a family trip there next year, maybe.
Which I would
So,
strongly recommend. We were in Seoul last year, and we had one of the best trips as a family. It was really nice.
Oh, fantastic. I've heard a lot about what an amazing city it is and
Yes.
how what incredible culture they have out there. So I think we do need to go and visit it firsthand. So something to plan. We're just back from a big family trip in Australia, so we won't be going
Nice.
anytime soon. Maybe definitely next year. But lovely to hear about your interest and your daughter's interest as well in Korean things. And I know you've had an incredibly international career and are very comfortable with living and working in different places. And what we're talking about today obviously is about, you know, when we discover or we suspect that the time is right to make a really big change in our work lives. Can you just kind of let people know who are listening kind of what prompted your decision to draw your big chapter at Heineken to an end, and what you're contemplating, like how definite the future plan is looking for you at this point?
Yeah. It was quite a journey, and these are these journeys that I call self-discovery journeys, where you really start to learn more about yourself, and it takes a while because, like every good journey, there is a moment of denial or a moment where you feel so well in the comfort zone that you feel like afraid of everything else. So. In a way, Helen, I think I knew my time at Heineken was coming to an end already 3 years ago. But this was my family, and Heineken will always be a big part of my not just professional but also personal life. It's a company I owe most of my growth that has opened to me the doors of the world. And where I had, as I said in my farewell speech, my brightest and my darkest days, both equally important for my development and to become the person I am. You become a loyal subject in a way, and you just keep going. And you neglect a bit what your heart is telling you, that it is time for a change, that you shouldn't procrastinate. And then something happens. You get into the so called perfect storm where you are obliged to confront the brutal facts. And that's a terrible moment at the beginning, but eventually it turns out to be a big blessing in disguise, because that's the moment where you can really not avoid to tell yourself the truth, which is, I need to change. And I can't wait for someone to make this change for me. I need to provoke this change, and I need to understand what it means for me. And that's a moment where you also start to understand or appreciate what really matters for you in your career, what is giving you energy, what is draining energy from you, and then you need to draw a line and do the aftermath and understand whether you have enough of energy production in the place where you are, the thing that you're doing. And if the answer is no, then there is no excuse left. Then you can't create yourself another alibi. You just need to make the jump somehow.
Yeah, I find that fascinating, that the way you're describing that actually sometimes the barrier to being open to change is within us, and the fact that we're ignoring the signs that are there and what we're feeling and what we really know deep in our hearts to be the case. And actually it's probably quite easy for us to say, oh well, I can't change my job or go in a new direction because of XYZ. But actually, probably one of the biggest barriers listening to you is our reluctance to listen to what we're really thinking and believing and feeling inside, to kind of face up to that truth, because it might feel quite scary and uncomfortable.
Yes, and that's the point, Helen. I would really call it fear rather than reluctance. You know, millennials, Gen Z, we all say they're much braver. They don't want to stay too long in a company. They want to change constantly. They want to adapt. They just want to continuously progress and transform. But it's also true that they're younger. And being younger means you have less responsibility. At this point in time in my career, I have the entire financial responsibility of my family. My husband and I made a clear choice. We're equally busy and committed in the family, but the income comes from me. this big weight on your shoulders,
Mm.
and this is a great barrier that you create for yourself, because when you start to think, okay, what if I leave now, and there are moments where you really want to, like, just go, but then you think, okay, how am I going to support the kids in their international school? How am I going to, just pay the bills at the end of the month, very trivially speaking? And then that can block you, until you really understand that the position you're putting yourself into is becoming so much more toxic than the feeling of fear. And so that's a moment where fear transforms into a positive engine for change, because it gives you this discomfort where you have to do something, but you don't become reckless all of a sudden, because fear becomes your devil's advocate voice that keeps you in check, to make sure that you evaluate all the risks around you. So it's a great deterrent at the beginning, but I believe it can be a propelling force that helps you go and explore without becoming just yeah, without losing sense of reality. It's something that keeps you anchored to the brutal facts,
Mm.
doesn't stop you anymore at some point, because you need to change, and you're taking responsibility. But at the same time, it always allows you the what if and what if not scenarios that are very important when you want your next step to be, yes, adventurous, but at the same time realistic, and in line with your responsibilities somehow.
Yeah, that's great advice about, how to deal with that voice in your head that's saying you can't leave because XYZ, or, where's the income going to come from? What's your family's response going to be? All these fears that can stop you from exploring a new direction. But I love, I'm getting a picture in my head of like a seesaw, with
Yes.
the fear of stepping and out into a new direction and into the unknown on one side, and then on the other side, is the discomfort, how you feel about where you are now. And you were saying a little bit earlier that you need to really tune into how your energy is at work, and whether
Yes.
you are finding work fulfilling and sustaining, and it's giving you energy as well as demanding energy. But if that isn't the case, and actually there's more of the draining, it's affecting, I guess, your outlook on work and life generally, then maybe that's when the balance is wrong. Is that what you discovered?
Yeah, but once again, it's not a black and white picture, because in a company like Heineken and many others, after 2 decades, you can imagine, Helen, you will become one green-blooded person. That's how we define ourselves at Heineken, and this doesn't go away. So you will always find an excuse, because there will always be something that you really love so much about the company, about your job, about the people around you. And I had a lot of that. I've been really blessed with wonderful teams, great projects, the ability to innovate and transform. And do so in so many different places in the world, where you don't just copy paste, you need to reinvent, because you have a different context to understand in the first place. Um, but that's one part of the thing. The other is, and I believe this again comes a bit with the aging wisdom, so to say. There is a moment where you say, okay, I still love the company, still love my team. I want to give as much as I can, and this fulfills me. But is this the right thing for me? Am I
Mm.
creating sustainability for myself? And that's a bit where I got myself into when I decided to make this change. I realized that I was not learning enough anymore. My ability to still unlock potential was coming to such maturity level in such a job, in such a company, that I could have not sustained this for much longer. So that's the moment where fear transformed into from a negative to a positive force for change. The moment where I stopped looking at, oh, but these people expect this from me, the organization expects this from me, to the moment, okay, what do you expect from
Mm.
yourself? How to create sustainability for yourself? That's the moment I got really the call to action, because
Yeah.
I realized that after 21 years, and I think it's totally fine and maybe even long overdue, you need to question yourself. And the big question for me, it took a few months to elaborate, is what do you want to do in the next 10 years of your professional life in order to be fulfilled, to generate a proper income, and to unlock the potential that you still believe have in yourself. It's a bit, if you remember the Good to Great book, it's a bit the hedgehog principle. Something you love, something you can be best at, and something that can give you money. The intersection of these three elements is what makes you the best version of yourself. And I had realized that I had this time at Heineken, but it was behind me. I have to create a new one, and clearly it has to be somewhere else.
Yeah. What you're saying sparks so many thoughts in me. Like, um, the fact that I don't know if you're familiar with William Bridges, who wrote Managing Transitions, but he talks about the psychological
Yes,
process of change. And he says every new beginning starts with a loss. And even if you know you're ready to move on, you still have to let go of things that you might really still
yes,
value about your current role, whether that's your relationships with your colleagues, whether it's the comfort and having a good network and being known for what you do. There's things you have to just let go of in order to start that process of
exactly.
exploring the new, and that can feel really hard. But I love what you say about actually you need to put yourself first, and that again can be really hard because we're used to playing a role for others in our organizations. We're used to meeting expectations as in
Yes,
our professional lives, but also meeting expectations of our family and and fulfilling needs in our
yes.
domestic lives as well. And it can be quite, I find I'm quite shocked by how easy it is to ignore what really matters to you because you're so used to playing these roles for others as well.
No, you're
Um,
very right. But at the same time, um, there is a moment you realize that if you don't take care of yourself and make yourself happy, you can't take care of others and make them happy. That was the equation that I developed at some point, and the sign was so visible on the wall because I had become a very upset, frustrated version of myself, and this feeling was penetrating the house. So everyone around me felt bad. I really started to see the effects of my daughters. At some point, I said, "Okay, I've turned myself into the mentor," you know. And
from
I said,
Harry
"Okay,
Potter, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm a big fan." But this can't be. This can't be. So that was the moment where I said, "Okay, I'm afraid of changing, but I must." So let's use this fear as a propelling energy, as opposed to something just blocking me and grounding me in a place where I definitely don't want to be anymore. And that's the moment where you also start to ask yourself, okay, how do I make myself happy again? So what are the things or the elements that I need to put around me? What's the ecosystem I need to create? And then once you have done it for yourself, you start to ask the same question to your family, and try to understand if your ticking boxes is the same of the have, and you realize that you can go in a lot of places, but they don't want to go necessarily in so many places. So you start to drill down to a more compact set of choices that you can make, where you know that you can create a new source of energy and sustainability for yourself, but also for your family. And Helen, I think your kids are more or less in the age of mine. They are not packed and put in a container anymore. They have needs, they have demands, they want to have a social life, and they're not necessarily so addicted to change as you are. So you need to take this into account. So that's why I'm saying it was a beautiful journey, because it allowed me to really tell myself, okay, what is it that is important for you? What are the things that you must have in your professional life so that you have a beautiful personal life? What are the things that you need to avoid at all costs, because these things are bad for you? It's
Yeah.
important to use this juxtaposition, and not just what you want, but also what you absolutely don't want. And once you tell yourself this, honestly, the clouds are moving away, and you start to really see, the path, and then you just start walking.
Yeah, I love that. And you remind me of some very wise advice a senior colleague gave me early in my consulting career, where he said, "You don't have a strategy until you know what your strategy is not about." So, to your point, you ask, where are we going and what are we doing? But you also have to
Yeah.
say, where are we not going and what are we not doing and what do we not want? And I love what you describe as a kind of, when you've got to that point where you've realize that you are ready for a big transition, what I heard you say is you start to have lots of conversations and ask lots of questions of people in your professional life, but also in your home life as well. And you're listening to answers, and that's quite an open, it's like opening up all the possibilities. But then through those conversations, you start to get clearer on how you're going to narrow down some of those choices as well, in a way that meets your needs, but also works for other people around you who are really important to you.
This was really a defining moment of the entire process. The other day I was talking to someone that is younger than me, an ex-colleague who just had a baby. We were having a walk in the park with the baby and the conversation, and she said, "Before you leave, give me an advice." And I said, well, look, after what I've experienced these few months, there's just one and only one, and it is relentlessly build your network. Spend 15 minutes every day, starting today, to build your network. It can be a call to someone that you haven't heard of for long. It can be writing an email to the author of a book that you liked. It can be just browsing on LinkedIn or creating new contacts on LinkedIn, anything. Just do it, because this is gold. And there will be a moment where you will need it so much. So what I did, luckily, I am a social animal, so I really like to have conversation with people, and that's how you and I met, through someone
Yeah.
else. So I really started to talk to a lot of people, and in particular, I focused in talking to colleagues, trying to understand how they would see me through their eyes. So you've known me for so many years. You've known what I've done. So I don't need to explain you who I am, or prove myself. What do you see now? And I got actually the mentor thing came precisely from one of these persons that told me, Anna, I said, I want feedback. Give me feedback. And he said, oh, it's very simple. When you are well, you bring sunshine in a room, and you give an energy that very few people can give. But when you're not well, oh my God, there's nowhere to hide. Whoa.
That's brutally honest
It's
feedback, but
brutally honest. Well, I've been working for a Dutch company for over 20 years. They're very famous for their brutal honesty, which I've learned to appreciate and
yeah,
actually cherish a lot.
yeah.
I loved it. I said, you're so right. And that's the moment I realized I was doing the same at home. So I said, okay, I need to bring myself back to this place where I am a source of energy myself, so that I can irradiate the people around me, because that's what really fulfills me as a person and a professional. And it was such a blessing to get to know that. And then I started to talk to people outside the organization to understand, okay, what's out there? Tell me about this black hole that I see after being so long in a company. I don't know anymore. All the contacts I have with the external world are through my job anyway. So I talk to a lot of professionals, a lot of peers, especially in my global role. Of course, I was having all these interesting round tables. but you always have this Heineken hat on top, and that's your filter. That's how
Mm.
you look at the world. So I really needed to understand what was aside, what was happening, and beautiful conversations were born, and honestly also a couple of interesting job opportunities. And I kept talking and talking and talking, but especially listening to people. That's how things kind of came together, and the phase where I am now is not necessarily really the answer to the famous question, what do you want to do for the next 10 years of your professional life? But it's given me information to shape the answer, because I'm exploring the unknown. I'm getting into things that I've seen only from very far, uninterested in a kind of an interested fashion, and that now are becoming things like, okay, what if I start doing that as well? What if I create this thing that nobody's doing at the moment? What if I use what I know, apply to different field? And so, every day there is an interesting what if. And what I'm most proud of is that I stopped looking for just the same experience in a different company. I said, okay, enough of beer, but maybe another category, plug and play, doing what I know somewhere else. And it was so short-sighted. I mean, short-sighted, sorry, because it was just another safe move, not brave at all. It was just, landing from one place to the other, until I realized that it could have been really the beginning of the end, because it would mean ignoring all the things I've just said I don't want anymore in my professional life somehow.
Mm.
And maybe another big company will come at some point. But I decided for myself that it won't happen until I give a proper answer to the question, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah, that's so helpful to hear how rather than rush to nail down an answer to that question, what am I going to do next? You have to really trust the process
Yes,
of asking questions, open questions to people, of exploring, of discovering what it is that other people do. And that opens up possibilities that you might not know about today but that might emerge in a week or in a month. So, back to your advice to grow the network every day, it is hugely valuable because it's like each conversation might sow the seed for a future possibility, and we don't know about that possibility yet today. But
exactly.
it can feel very uncomfortable to stay with a for a period of time without knowing what the exact answer is going to be. But I love the way you describe you're gathering information that helps you shape the answer. And you
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what's the irony of that? Let me tell you this, that it takes so it is so hard to do it on yourself. But when I realized the process as I was going through, which you have beautifully described, I realized that I've done it multiple times with people I've mentored,
Yeah.
people that were just accepting the status quo for the sake of peace and comfort, and were completely neglecting their ability to develop a pair of wings and start flying. A lot of these people actually had the courage at some point, also thanks to the confidence and the trust I put in them, to let go, and they're all much happier in whatever they're doing now. And so when I realized what I was doing to myself, that okay, you're preaching well, but you're not converted, I said, oh my God, this is unforgivable. But it took a while to realize what the process was about, to be honest. How can I give so much courage and bravery to other people to, inspire them? And then it took me so long to find it on myself. But I think the answer is a sense of responsibility can
Yeah.
pull you down so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I love hearing that, and wonderful that you've been. It sounds like a huge source of encouragement and advice to others looking to manage big changes or transitions, and that it can take a while to dawn on us that we need to follow our own advice and that can feel
Thanks.
quite uncomfortable, or
Yes.
there's a sudden light bulb moment when you, oh, I get it now. I have to do that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, well, we're coming to the end of our conversation. It's been so wonderful talking to you about how you're approaching your transition, but also just hearing your many words of advice and wisdom for others listening, who might be contemplating taking a big leap themselves. And I think particularly things I'm going to be holding on to from our conversation is asking yourself, what if and what if not? And then asking others lots of open questions, including the very brave, what do you see about me? And tell me more about what you do. And just that process of self-awareness and learning more about the opportunities around us. So thank you so much for sharing that wisdom, and best of luck with your career transition from here. I'm really looking forward to following that. If people want to get in touch professionally, what's the best way for them to do that?
Look, I said network is important for me, so I'll be happy to get to know new people. LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. I'll check it every day, and yeah, and hopefully, being able to exchange opinions on that with other people after that. But I really want to say how humbled and blessed I feel for being able to join your podcast. I've started to listen it a bit every day, and it's utterly inspiring. So I'll keep doing that, and it's a fantastic privilege to be part of it. Thank you, Helen.
Oh, thank you so much. That's wonderful to hear. I'm glad you're enjoying the backlist. And it's been a total delight having you on the show, and the conversation, having our conversation today. Thank you for being a brilliant guest.
Thank you so much. Cheers.